We're down here at G&J Fisheries today in Middleton Road. A great complex with a multitude of species ranging from pike, perch. It's renowned for the great carp it's got in some of its waters as well. I'm going to be down here today interviewing predator angler Glascoe Jnr, just finding out a bit about his background, how he got into fishing, some of the highs and lows he's experienced as well along on his angling journey. So yeah, let's go meet Ant. So we're fishing at a venue that's not too far from your place today, Ant?
No, we're not. Rhodes Lodges, GJ Fisheries. I fished here for many, many years when I was a kid. Some great memories. It's run now by a great set of lads, Gary and Jay, who have put a lot of time in here, a lot of effort, stocked it as well, and which I think is brilliant. I've travelled the world fishing here, there, and everywhere. But it's these places where your roots are that bring back the good memories. You know, it's quite a. For instance, the car park there. As soon as we pulled in, it brought back a memory of my dad taking me to KFC, which was one of the first ones in Cheetham Hill, one of the first ones in Manchester. And we used to get a bucket of chicken, and we used to drive, which is not too far from here, throw all the rods in the car. Car stinking of chicken, KFC, and we'd pull up here, we'd stuff our faces, and then we'd have a day's fishing.
Yeah, I mean, you've fished all over the world, but I mean, these local waters that you like you say bring back them childhood memories. Some of the best waters, aren't they?
They're great, and they've got character as well. And a lot of these places, they hold some serious surprises. From what I've found out over the years.
Yeah. So how did you get into your fishing?
Well, we grew up in a place called Cheetham Hill, not far from Salford. Quite rough. We were brought up in an area where my dad didn't want me and my sisters to go down that route. Every weekend, my dad would finish work, fill the car up, fishing gear in the car, hitch the caravan on the back, and away we'd go. I started off at 3 years old. Back then, from looking at pictures and stuff, my bed in that caravan was a top drawer. And it started off from sitting on my dad's knee, watching his pipe bungs, and it progressed from there. And my mum as well. She's an angler.
Your mum likes the fishing as well?
Mum loves the fishing, The first time I ever seen a pike face to face, it's a bit of a cheesy story, was my mum hooked this decent chub, and she's arm sat on her knee, and this pike come from nowhere, clamped right onto this chub, and this chub was a 5-pound chub. It was a big chub, and anyway, this pike took off, and she got the chub back all mauled, but when they weighed the chub, it was actually 5 pound. I don't know, although I can't remember whether the chub survived or not, but it was a big 30-pound pike. Yeah.
So you saying earlier as well how fishing's got you through some really dark times and been some of the best times, most memorable time you've ever had in your life. Do you want to just elaborate a little bit on that, mate?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the fishing's have always been a massive part of my life. It's kept me out of a lot of trouble, kind of. Yeah. It's kept me out of, it's kept me focused. And that's what my dad wanted. He wanted me to focus. So he taught me everything, from the sea fishing. He bought me my own boat when I was 12. And we just hit the coast every weekend. And when we didn't hit the coast, we were fishing local waters, or we were fishing rivers, the River Wye, and we were the River Severn, catching perch and zander. It was a good life. He just didn't want us growing up. But unfortunately, we weren't in that position to move out of the areas we could have. So he got us out. We finished school on a Friday, and before you knew it, we were fishing in some place that was far out, beautiful. Yeah.
Just getting you away from getting into trouble and stuff like that.
Exactly, And I've not been no saint, but I've been brought up, not dragged up, and I've been brought up to respect people, and fishing has helped me along the way. It's kept me focused.
Yeah, you've got 2 kids now, and I suppose you'll be passing that mantra on to your kids as well.
1,000,000%. I mean, my eldest lad, he's caught pike out of here, he's caught perch out of here, and he loves it. And I'm hoping my youngest son, he gets into it. But I'm not going to force it down him. I'm going to introduce it to him slowly, and if they don't like it, they don't like it. It's one thing my dad kind of did with me. He rammed it down my throat, and if I hooked a big fish and Dad, I can't manage, he'd go, well, I'm not reeling it in, and it made me, and 9 out of 10 it was a big bullus or a dogfish.
So just like a little bit more about you, Dad, because obviously I know you personally, and I know how much your dad meant
Yeah.
to you, and you know what he's done,
Yeah.
and still has a huge impact in your life now. And just gives a bit of tell us a bit more about your dad, if you would, Ant.
Yeah, my dad, you know, he was a bit of a rum soul.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't want me growing up the way, you know, he kind of was, you know, he liked a bit of a laugh at his mates and whatnot, back as you do when you're young. And so he didn't want me going down that route. So the old fella, you know, he was a good angler. He was taught me everything I knew, me knots, how to fish, how to study the water. You know, he was a commercial diver, so his watercraft was just out of this world. You know, he kind of reminded me of Jacques Cousteau, who was a famous French diver. And, you know, I'd be out on a reef with him and he'd go, any time now the bass will be on the feed. And he was a proper seaman, he was a proper pike fisherman, he was a proper angler. And, you know, I've seen him catch fish where people were struggling and stuff, and he's passed that on to me. You know, and he'd catch fish in the toilet, my dad, and people say that about me, but not at the moment. But, you know, yeah, so the old fella, he had a massive impact, and I looked up to him quite a lot, and we did everything together. We fished everywhere together. We travelled. We went on lads' weekends together and listened to music and talk about motorbikes and, you know.
I'd never met your dad, but from like what I'd gather, he sounds like he was an absolute belter, mate. I mean, that I suppose leads us on to like how fishing. You know, we've said about the good times, but also you've been through the dark times with it in the past as well, don't you? Tell us a little bit about that, mate.
Of course, yeah. Well, 5 years ago, actually, April the 4th, I was in Manchester and I got a phone call saying I'd just done a big fishing show with Matt Hayes, the Northern Angling Show, and I got home and I couldn't wait to tell my dad about the show. Phoned him up, my dad was in Anglesey. I says, Dad, I can't wait to tell you about the show. It's been great, you know, we're losing my voice talking to people, meeting people. We were there talking about our Canadian fishing trip. So the day after, I gets up as normal and I got a phone call. My dad's collapsed in Anglesey. So it's not really what you want to hear. So I kind of, that's all I knew at the end of the day. You know, he was 145 mile away or whatever it is, and I didn't know what was going on. So a good friend of mine, Big Kev, he came, picked me up, and he picked up my sisters as well, and we drove to Anglesey. And unfortunately, we got onto the island. We got off the Menai Straits, and we got a phone call saying my dad had passed away, which was really sudden. Massive commotion. It was a big shock. Anyway, we got to where the caravan is, and there was a big commotion, and my dad was on the floor. I didn't see it, to be fair. I couldn't face it. My sisters was there with him, and yeah. So, cut a long story short, he was setting up his fishing gear. He was getting ready to go do some bass fishing, and the last phone call with him was, Dad, I can't wait to come and, you know, have a chat about this Northern Angling Show. And he says, I'll tell you what, son, we'll get a case of beer and we'll have a chat over the beer. That was the last conversation I had with him. Anyway, he passed away. It was real sudden shock. It was an embolism that travelled from his leg into his heart, killed him straight out. And my mum, she was a nurse, so she was straight on him straight away, giving him, you know, resuscitation and God knows what. And anyway, so yeah, it was too late. The helicopters came in and a private ambulance took him away, and all this was happening in front of us, you know, and it was awful. But, you know, he was about 40 yards from the coast where he died, so, and that's what he wanted, I reckon, you know. And but
yeah, he went out in a place that he would have wanted to go out.
Yeah, he went out rock and roll, if you ask me, mate. He didn't go in hospital and pass away. He died literally setting his gear up to go bass fishing,
doing what he loves,
40 yards from the coast. You know, and but
so, you know, it's tragic and outside and everything, on how much of an impact that had as well. While all this were going on, something else horrific was happening at the time, or was happened at the time, I should say.
You couldn't write it. You really couldn't write my life, because whilst my mum's resuscitating my dad and she's, you know, pumping on his chest and whatnot, at the same time she was having a major heart attack, and the adrenaline of what was going on with my dad was shocking her heart back into life, but we didn't notice at the time. So when it all settled down and my dad got taken away, we sat down with Mum and she kept complaining. She had the chest pains and she wasn't really, she didn't look herself. The next morning I stayed in a separate caravan and I heard the blues and twos, ambulance at my mum's caravan, and they were taking my mum away on a wheelchair, and they'd done some tests on her, and little did we know that she'd suffered a severe heart attack at the same time. So yeah, very tragic.
I don't know.
But she's all right. She got away with it. She ended up in hospital. My dad ended up in hospital, as bad as it sounds. And she ended up having surgery on the day after my dad passed away. So my dad passed away, my mum had a severe heart attack. So in a nutshell, I nearly lost both of them on the same day. Lonely heart syndrome.
Yeah. Is that what they said it was? Yeah.
That's what they said it could have been, you know. But yeah, so I nearly lost both of them in the same day, which was kind of unheard of, really.
Awful, mate. And see, like you told me in the past, this is when you fell out of love for fishing then at that point, didn't you?
Yeah.
You found it hard to get back into your fishing, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I had a rest from the fishing. I gave up my sponsors. I told them I didn't want to get involved with it anymore, and which was a big shock. I left on my own accord. I just said I don't want to be involved anymore. And I couldn't even, every time I looked at a fishing rod, I wanted to be sick, and I took all my pictures down. People were asking me to do TV appearances, magazines, and I just didn't want to fish anymore. Yeah. So I just lost the way of living. I just fell out of it. Yeah. I just got so depressed. It was unreal, and it had losing my dad had a massive impact in my life, But then, I gave it a rest for a couple of years. Had a bit of dabbling around with bits and bobs, and it just wasn't the same. I refused to go on my boat without my dad. I refused to go fishing without my dad. And then one day I sat down and I had a bit of a talk with my mum, and my mum turned around and says, I used to lie to my mum. Yeah. I used to say I'd been fishing, and she knew I hadn't, because she knew everything was social media. She knew I threw everything on there, and she noticed I hadn't been going fishing. She sat me down. She said, "Why are you not going fishing?" So I explained, and she basically turned around and said, "Your dad wouldn't want that. Your dad would kick your ass if he knew that you'd give up fishing. Yeah. You were put on this planet to fish. It's all you know." And it is, as cheesy as it sounds, I keep saying it, I don't know anything else but fishing. It's my life. It's a way of life.
So is that that was it then? My dad wouldn't want this, and getting my rods out, going fishing. My dad wouldn't have wished this on me and all.
Yeah, exactly, mate. He wouldn't have wanted me to just, curl up in a ball and he wanted me to get back out there, because if you think about it, he's wasted all his time and years and effort teaching me everything that I know for me to just throw it all away. Yeah, of course. And when your dad spent a lot of time with you teaching, passing his stuff down to you, for me to just throw it all in the bin. So then I got back into it then. My missus got pregnant. I was in Paris when I got told I was going to be a dad. And I got back into the TV work, and it kind of, give me a rocket up the arse, I'll be honest with you. And it kind of made me just want to get back out there and fish. Yeah, man. And then my son was born, and then everything was just amazing, It was great. Yeah. Absolutely. So fishing, got back into it. It brought me back out of, it got me out of a big depression, I'll be honest with you.
Nice. What do you reckon? It's just the fact that being outdoors again, what was it? Where do you reckon the benefit of the fishing came from? What was it, like you found worked, or what?
What I don't know. I'll be honest with you, just being out and just being the smells and listening to the birds, you don't get that in the house. Yeah. You get TV, and I'm not a TV person. Yeah. And then the fishing, the smells of fish slime on your hands, you can't beat it. Yeah. And it's just
getting out with your mates as well.
Getting out with your pals.
Socialising.
If it weren't for my pals as well, and my family, encouraging me, getting me out back fishing, people like Matt Hayes and all them lot, they knew my dad had a massive impact on me, and they've had a few words in my ear, and it helps when these guys come out, and mates in rock bands that I know, and come on, Ant, your dad wouldn't want this, get back out fishing. Yeah. And it's great, and now I'm back at it. I feel good, and I can see me the way my dad was with me, the way I am with Harrison.
Yeah, brilliant.
And it's great. One.
Yeah, pass it on. Well, tell us a little bit about what you've done recently in memory of your dad.
Well, you know, it's a bit of a weird one, I'll be honest with you, but I've always wanted a custom fishing rod made before my dad, when my dad was alive. You know, I wanted something personal to me. And so there's a chap at Resi Laws, Darren Keats, and I've noticed his work for a long time, a long time. I've just never been able to afford one because they're not cheap, but they're a work of art. It's not just a fishing rod. So I got in contact with him. He offered to build this custom rod for me out of, I just said, I want a piece of art, and he's made me a piece of art. That there's a 10,000-year-old Siberian molar off...
This part?
Yeah, this part's all built in. 10,000-year-old molar off a mammoth. So he says, I've got that, blam, 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 and then, you know, so I just left him to it to do his own thing, and he's made this rod, and he's even added some, a personal touch of some of my dad's ashes there in the top part, and he's put a little perch on the back here, and then he's actually put, you know, 1948 to 2017, Tony Glascoe, so it's a memorial perch fishing rod that I can use, take out, and actually have my dad with me while I'm fishing.
Spot on, mate.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah.
Wow. Honestly, the work that has gone into this, I've never seen anything like it. It looks absolutely...
He's amazing what he does.
On.
He's amazing what he does. And he didn't have to.
And that's it, mate. Now you're fishing, like say, with your dad with you, and that's what it's all about, you know.
I'm taking him with me.
Forever in your thought.
You know, he's not sat on my mantelpiece. There's only a little bit of his ashes in there, but it's still a part of the old fella. So...
Yeah. Mate, thanks for being honest with us and telling us a bit of your backstory. And
well, not a lot of people know the full story of what happened, but you know, hopefully, you know, if you know, the moral of the story is don't sit at home grieving. Open up about your stories, talk to people, don't let it build up. You know, get out fishing if that's what you're into. But if you are grieving over someone, talk to people about it and open up about it. You know, it's nice to talk about it.
Good advice,
and you can't forget these people that have passed away. You got to keep their soul going. You got to keep the legacy going.
Nice one, mate.
Nice one, pal.
You're a legend. Nice
one, mate. Cheers.